is Roy Arthur Blodgett, and I'm joined today by my co-host for these live chats, Savannah from Perfect Q LLC, and we're stoked to do another weekly live chat for Happy Dragons. If you don't already know, Happy Dragons is a reptiles first community platform. We have a Discord with a lot of amazing dedicated herb keepers, and people focused really on like progressing their husbandry, trying to offer the best for their animals, and interested in sharing in community with others who are interested in doing the same. So it's a really lively space. Highly recommend everyone check that out. And then coming down the road, we're going to have some other kind of expanded offerings from Happy Dragons that should be pretty awesome, including a course, some kind of expert Q&A kind of things. You can get expert consultations from various different really high level keepers and breeders within the herpetoculture community. So it's a really unique offering, something new, something different, and highly recommend people check it out. So check out the Discord, join us over there, get into the conversation. And as far as this live chat, this is kind of just a new thing that we're trying out, something kind of experimental a little bit. And it's just a general husbandry conversation, live chat. If anyone is tuning in on YouTube, if you have any questions or anything that you're working with recently with your reptiles, challenges you've been having or questions that have come up for you, feel free to drop them into the live chat and we can kind of riff about it a little bit. We may not have the answers necessarily to everything, but we might have some insight into who may have better answers. And regardless, it's just fun to kind of talk with other herb keepers and riff about what we're experiencing, and also celebrate each other's successes and kind of exciting things. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the live chat stream there and we will get to them. But until then, Savannah, what's up with you? Anything new in your herp room these days?
No, I'm still devoting a lot of my time to trying to bond with the baby Agurnia. Um,
Nice.
I finally nailed that feeding cup. I think I mentioned it last time how I took like a little deli cup and just cut a hole in it so that only the babies can get in and the parents
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, yeah.
In 2023, mom got
Otherwise, they
stuck
just
in the cup.
hog.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Of course, when I put the bowl in, whenever I feed my animals, I do an auditory cue. I'll tap on the enclosure, whether with tongs or my finger, just like a thump, and
Mm-hmm.
they know that means usually bugs because the
Yep.
veggies I just kind of leave. But the parents came out
It's like
and
the DoorDash equivalent, you
yeah,
know?
exactly. Yeah, but the parents came out and one of the babies actually came out too. And like I was he like
Oh,
came
cool.
out and was investigating the cup, trying to figure out how to get in it. You know, you see the little lizard gears turning, and
Yeah.
I hear one of the adults trying to get in the cup right now too. But but yeah, no, it's really cute. They're still super skittish, but we'll get there. I can't remember how long like with the last litter, how long it took for like the babies to kind of get like used to me to the point where they would like tongue feed and everything. I could never get them to actually step on my hand. They're way too smart for that. They're quick.
Mm.
They knew if I got close enough, they could quickly snatch the food and run off with it. But you know, persistence and patience is a virtue. Catch it if you can. But
I love
you
it.
had some babies hatch out. I saw you posted the video. You
Yeah.
actually did another comparison of the red phase and the was the other one a green
Yeah.
phase or a
Yeah,
tan?
yeah. So they're yeah, so I had some Phrynonax sexcarinatus hatch this past week, and I've been calling those snakes Guianan bird snakes. They don't really have like a consistent common name, because they're just so kind of obscure in herpetoculture up to this point. I hatched the first in herpetoculture last year, and then this year got another two clutches from my pair. So I have a wild caught adult pair from they came from Suriname. They came in at different times, different imports, and what's unique about them is that the male of the two is this like beautiful rusty red coloration, and that species like if you Google it or anything like that, almost all of the examples you're going to see are going to be kind of more like an olive green or kind of like a olivey brown color. That's kind of like the standard phenotype for them. And he is seemingly some sort of naturally occurring morph that produces this like brick red and orange coloration, which is really, really striking, beautiful. And so the interesting thing is that of the babies that I've hatched, it's like roughly 50-50 split between red and normal or kind of green phase babies. And so these babies that just hatched, it looks like there's a couple reds and then a bunch of greens. But it's a little bit hard to tell when they first emerge from the egg. You can kind of tell, but as they shed and get like a couple sheds down the road, it's pretty obvious which direction they're trending in. And so yeah, kind of fun to see some more of those. And I got 2 clutches last year, and then again 2 clutches this year. So they're pretty prolific snakes. Once they get going, the females tend to double clutch each year if they're well fed, they're well provisioned, and so that's pretty standard. And yeah, it'll be cool to continue working with those and try and get a little bit more of them out there into herpetoculture, because like I said, they're still really rare and unusual kind of within herpetoculture. There's another species in the genus called Phrynonax poecilinatus, a Costa Rican bird snake that is a lot more commonly seen and a lot more widely kept. Still kind of obscure, a little bit fringe, but far more common than these guys. So, I'm just trying to kind of get the word out about them and generate some more interest in these other species in the genus, because they're all really cool snakes.
They're beautiful, honestly, and those babies are probably one of the cutest things I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder too, since you say like there's not like really a stable common name for them. Like, were you the one that imported them, or did you get them from an importer?
No, I got them from an importer, and it's kind of a funny story because I wasn't like I really love that genus of snakes, but I wasn't necessarily seeking them out. But then what ended up happening was a friend of mine was going to an importer. She lives down in South Florida, and she was going to one of like the big South Florida importers. They had just had like a Suriname import come in, and she was going to collect a few Chironeus scurrilus, which are the rusty whip snakes. It's kind of a bright red, really striking snake from Suriname that our mutual friend Ashley DeZan up in Canada was keeping at the time. And she was going to pick up those snakes for Ashley. And when she got home, one of them was just kind of not like the others. And she was like, "What? You're not a Chironeus, are you?" And basically this snake in the import had been mistakenly identified as a Chironeus because of its unusual red color. It looked, it was so atypical for the species that it was totally misidentified. And we didn't know what, like my friend didn't know what it was. And so she reached out to me and was like, "Hey, do you know what this is?" And I was like, "Whoa, I know what it is, but I've never seen one that color. It's really unusual." And so we kind of went back and forth. And then because it wasn't this Chironeus that Ashley was looking for, we were kind of like, "Okay, well, what do we do with it?" And so then my friend was like, "Hey, well, are you interested in it?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah, it's a really unusual snake. I like that genus, and sure." And so she ended up sending it to me, and then I think it was the following year, or maybe like 6 months, 8 months later, another import came in, and there happened to be a green female that showed up from an importer on Morph Market that I ended up purchasing. And then I spent about 2 years, I'd say, a year and a half, 2 years, just like getting those 2 snakes established, because like any snake that's like, a fresh import, they're wild caught. It's not like, they're not a beginning keeper kind of thing in that context. And so I was like, just making sure they're eating consistently. At first I had to figure out what they wanted to eat, because
oh gosh,
like you don't necessarily know. And it turned out that what they really wanted was eggs. And so that's actually still what I feed my adults, is eggs. That's
like quail eggs or bigger?
Quail eggs, chicken eggs, pheasant eggs, any egg. chicken size or below or smaller.
Okay.
I'll offer to them. I try to give them as much egg variety as I can because that's the only thing they really want to eat is eggs. Like it's interesting. They won't really eat chicks or quail, but they'll eat eggs. So, which is that the species is very well known for eating eggs in their native range, but it's interesting that like that's exclusively what they want. But the babies that I'm raising eat pinkies. They eat button quail. They eat all kinds of stuff. The babies will eat like soft boiled egg chunks or like
Okay.
scrambled egg chunks, which is pretty funny. So the
Yeah,
babies
I
are
mean, I
more
was
kind of
wondering that too, because
less
like I know
picky,
it
but
gets challenging with like egg eating species too, with like the biotin and the avidin and the raw egg. Yeah,
yeah,
so like you kind of skirt around that if they're willing to eat the scrambled eggs.
yeah, yeah, it's true. They've done shockingly well. My adults on eggs now for like I think I've had them. This will be 4 years now that I've had them, and they've like grown enormously. Like they've both doubled in size. Um, Super healthy, beautiful, vibrant snakes. So it seems to be going well. But anyway,
Was it like an immediate like response, like when you got them and you start like approaching the situation of trying to feed like
mm-hmm.
wild caught imports? Was it like how much patience did you have to exercise before they actually started eating the eggs? Like, did you try numerous other things first?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I tried rodents. The first thing I tried I think was chicks, and then also tried quail. The male I could get to occasionally eat like day old quail, but I would have to kind of like tease him a little bit to get him to strike. And then once he would like bite the prey, he would eat it. He would like, oh,
Okay.
he'd be like, oh, this is food, and then he would eat it. But I just didn't like doing that because it just is a stressful way to interact, to like basically try to elicit a strike from them. And so that's like a common way to get, certain imported species to start feeding
Kind
in
of
that initial
antagonizing them?
phase. Yeah, antagonizing them a little bit. It's just to elicit like them to actually bite. And then once they bite the prey item, it's like they taste it and they realize, oh, this is food, and then they'll eat it. But again, it's not like what I want to do. So I was like trying to figure out, okay, is there something that they'll take that I don't have to tease them for? And so I figured out with the male, who again I had for like at least 6 months, if not a year, before I found the female. I realized they would take eggs, just like really readily. Nothing needed. I could just leave them. What I like to do is I get those monkey pods, those big seed
Yeah.
pods, and I'll
Yeah.
put the eggs in there as like a faux nest, and then I'll like put it up in the
Aw.
branches, or I'll move it around the enclosure so it's like kind of an enrichment exercise, because they'll smell the eggs and then they'll come out and they'll start cruising and looking for them, and then they'll devour the nest.
That's
And so
really crafty.
that's just what I've continued to do with them now for years. And it was good to know that, that they would take eggs, because once I had the female, she just went for eggs right away. And I did offer her other stuff as well, but she just like the male, didn't really have interest. So kind of funny. But yeah, I've also done the kind of the seed pod nests with a few other species. I tried that with Boiga in the past, and it worked with them. And also my Spilotes sulphureus, of course, they also will take eggs and chicks and stuff like that left in that way. Because I think a lot of these arboreal colubrids are kind of bird nest specialists. It's not like the only thing they eat, but it's something that they specialize in eating, especially in the tropics. There are a lot of baby birds hatching pretty much all the time. So it's a pretty reliable prey source for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's always kind of fun to explore like that, like facilitating those natural habits, like seeing like what the animal just like for example your F1 generations, like when they're
Yeah.
just kind of like genetically encoded to like know what to do, like to
Yeah.
to recognize the scent of an egg of all things. Like to us that's like really hard to
Yeah.
kind of like wrap your head around, like because if you smell an egg you can't really smell it unless it's like a peeled boiled egg or something. But
Totally. Yeah.
so it's just Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really good to be like resourceful like that, and like having that intuition, like that keeper intuition. I think we talked about
Hmm.
keeper intuition like way back, like sometime last year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was in different context, but it's good to like know how to do that kind of research. And that was kind of like my next question too, is like I was going to
Hmm.
ask, when you had those wild caught imports, once you had them established and you decided, okay, I'm going to try breeding them, like
Hmm.
did you just put them together and hope it worked out, or did you like do any kind of planning, like environmental stimulation to replicate seasons? Like what kind of research goes
Yeah.
into a species that's relatively or mostly obscure, and there's
Yeah.
just not a lot known about them? Like you're even working with a phenotype someone didn't even recognize, so like you're kind of working from the ground up. So like I'm curious
Yeah.
what that research process is for you, or if you just are so familiar in the hobby, you just kind of like have that logged away in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Like if someone was like, I really like this reptile and I have this opportunity to work with this, but no one knows anything about it, what would that conversation between you and that person, how would that go?
Yeah. So I definitely like initially um it's kind of interesting because I'm kind of like I do a lot of seasonal replication and simulation with all of my herps. Just as but it's almost in some ways it's more a form of enrichment, I feel, and again, a form of it's just part of my keeping style is which is always seeking to be as naturalistic as possible. And and it's part of like the enjoyment of it for me. You know, that's it's selfish in a lot of respects to the reason why I pursue it that way. But um, so that's just kind of built into my keeping style, and part of that seasonal replication. So for like these snakes and for the spilotes, a lot of the species I work with actually all come from this same region of the Guiana Shield, kind of, you know, Suriname, Guyana, and the primary indicator of like seasonal shift there is precipitation, right? There's like wet and dry seasons. There's corresponding shifts in temperature as well, but they're not as drastic as they would be in other parts of the world. And also there's very little photoperiod change. It's pretty much 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of night every day because they're right on the equator. And so I do these kind of like 3 month cycles of kind of 3 months of reduced misting followed by 3 months of heavy misting, and I kind of just alternate that back and forth, which is pretty similar to how it is there. And then coupled alongside that, when I go into the heavy misting period, I increase the food. And so like for example, during that dry period, I might give the snakes like one egg every 2 weeks or something like that. And then in the wet season, I might give them like three smaller eggs once a week. Um,
Okay.
and so like it's just indicating because I think that's part of what's happening is it's not just that there's this precipitation change. That precipitation change triggers this cascade of all kinds of other things of greater foliage, greater abundance of insects, and so actually like it impacts the whole food web, and it's kind of like this abundant season, right? And I think that's part of why a lot of these species reproduce in that time. I think that they're reproducing right at the onset of that wet season as resources are coming into abundance. Then they're kind of gestating through the subsequent dry season, and then the young are hatching or being born at the beginning of the next cycle of the wet season, if that makes sense. So again, there's the way things are timed is to support the young having a lot of availability of food, ideally when they're being born, and also there being a lot of resources to support egg production,
Yeah, no, I mean
or
that makes
production of babies.
it makes a lot of sense, and it's kind of crazy. I would really like to know more on like, I guess, the process that the mother undergoes.
Hmm.
I've read a study like with Abronia that
Yeah.
basically supported like the litter size. It was a whole study like on trying to correlate like litter sizes with like the size of the females, the pelvic size, the length, everything like
Mm-hmm.
that. And there was a bit in there about how the size of the litter may be based on the previous wet season, because when it's wetter, there's more
Mm.
bugs, like you said.
Yeah.
So it's like the more food, and then of course we already know a lot of species will mate and then give birth in time for that season to start, basically, so that to ensure the babies have food. So
Yeah.
it's really really interesting that something is programmed that way. It's kind of it's very intelligent. So it's
Yeah. It's makes perfect sense.
yeah, it's just a whole it's a cascade of really good timing, and it's just it's harmonious. That's what it is. And
Yeah. And that's like, I feel like that's kind of, I mean, that's just how, natural systems work. It's really like that kind of insight about that, for me actually came from observing birds where I live, because like the birds are nesting when there's peak availability of moth and caterpillar larvae. And so that's when their baby, or they're nesting in anticipation of that, I should say. And so they're nesting right as like oak leaves are budding out, because oaks support the greatest diversity of Lepidoptera, which is butterflies and moth larvae in my region. And in most places that's true. Oaks are just like really important, where they occur. They tend to support a disproportionate amount of biodiversity, but it's all just like so perfectly timed that like the butterfly and moth eggs are hatching the moment there's these like fresh new leaves on the oaks that are able to be eaten by the caterpillars, which are then being collected and fed to the baby birds. And it's all just like this perfectly choreographed timing. And it's the same thing with like deers in rut, and like the production of the antlers of deer, because it's kind of amazing that deer, they literally grow a bone every
yeah,
year that they then shed, that they like
right.
that then breaks off. Like that's such an amazing thing. But the really amazing thing about that is that like in that initial stage of them growing, where they're all velvety, they're covered in all of these like blood vessels that are just pumping so much energy and nutrients into growing this bone, right? And then there's a period where that like suddenly stops and shifts, and the velvet sloughs off, and it basically from that point on, there's no more oxygen and blood, there's no more blood flowing to this bone, and so they essentially die. They essentially die on the head of this animal, and that
Mhm.
is timed right when the males are fighting for rut. So they have these antlers that like up until this point were these highly sensitive, like delicate kind of like very like if you were to like injure a deer's antlers when they're still velvety, it would hurt. Like it would really hurt the deer, because there's a lot of nerve endings, there's a lot of blood vessels.
Yeah.
But from that point on, like they're desensitized, and so they're fighting in that period. But then like that's only for a few weeks before then these things just basically fall off, because like I said, they're just no longer receiving nutrients and stuff, and so they're basically this dead bone on their head. It's just kind of an amazing, again, amazing choreography there. But
Nature is wild.
all that's a long answer to like your question about like, did I intend to breed them? I kind of, again, because I just kind of do that as part of my care. If I keep species together, and I often cohabitate species that are able to be cohabitated safely, and including the Phrynonax, they cohabitate really well. They don't eat each other. They often will breed just as kind of a result of being kept in that way. And so that's what happened with these snakes. They bred, and I was actually kind of taken by surprise when the female double clutched the first year, because I didn't know to expect that. And then I was like, oh, whoa, she looks like she's like swelling up again. and she's going to produce more eggs. And sure enough, she dropped another clutch after the first one. Like probably 6 weeks later, there was another clutch on the ground. And so this year I knew that was potentially going to happen, and I was able to anticipate it. But that kind of stuff is so interesting, the way that they all work. I love that stuff.
Yeah, and I think all through middle school and high school, and then a lot of college, and then the last 10 years, I've probably spent more time indoors than outdoors, embarrassingly to admit. But it's kind of scary that the day and age we live in, it's very easy to be so detached from nature.
Mm-hmm.
When the sheer amount of experiences and knowledge that are available, like for you to make all those observations and then apply them to your life and use them, that's impressive, Roy. Honestly,
Thanks.
you're very intelligent, intuitive keeper.
Thanks. I mean, it's just being a nature nerd, it's
more people should appreciate nature. I should appreciate nature more, honestly. But I like being inside with my lizards.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, it's nature too, in its own way. It's just
right. I mean, I'm still doing like my own research, but it's in the form of like asking other people questions, which adds like lag to it. So it's
totally
different than if I like went and traveled to Mexico or Guatemala and spent the years of my life down there. Learning what I could, and that's just a whole nother trip that now I'm in too deep. I have too many lizards to take care of. I can't leave them.
I know that story too. I mean, I really want to get down to Suriname, and see these creatures in the wild, or at least see where they're from, and
right.
And like, because a lot of what I'm doing in terms of like the keeping of them, it's all just theory, right? I haven't actually seen it.
It's
and it's theory that's backed by evidence.
Like, if you look at a chart of like weather patterns and seasons, you get probably an entirely different picture of like so many things that you didn't realize. Like you could make so many more correlations, like you already have with the oak trees and the pupa, the caterpillars, the deer. Like you could branch out to plants that attract certain insects, and then where those insects are laying their eggs, which brings on these and that, and there's a whole world going on around us, and a lot of us struggle to think beyond 24 hours ahead. And I also don't fault anyone for that, because some of us just have a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, and myself included, a lot of the times, honestly. I mean, I think that there have been periods in my life where I've had a lot more, like, it's been a lot slower and more spacious. These days, there's not a lot of time for the kind of deeper, like, observations and stuff that I was doing when I was talking about like the oak trees and the birds and stuff like that. That was like a time in my life when there was a lot more space for that. But anyway, regardless, it's interesting and all that stuff. And I wish that more people could experience that kind of slowness, and kind of ability to tap into that pace, because it definitely it's like so much of modern life is just keeping up with things,
Right. Yeah. No, because like, if we were to compare me to you, if you put both of us side by side and we compare the way we keep, I'm basically the equivalent of reading an instruction manual, and you are the equivalent of having spent enough time in nature to have an understanding to where you can pull logic out of your back pocket, if that makes sense, to better understand things. Like, you have a different understanding. Like, we're basically both have access to theoretically the correct information, but a totally different understanding of it. And in general, more people, it's very easy in this hobby too to get overwhelmed. I think you and I both know that very well.
Oh yeah.
And people should take more time for themselves, like to enjoy the moment, honestly. And I think that this might probably like segue into like why so many aspects of the hobby have become understood as black and white.
Mm.
because nature
Mhm.
is not black and white.
Mhm. For
There's
sure.
there's so many different things if you like peek under the hood, and so many things we don't even understand. But it's
Absolutely.
it's another perspective of keeping that I think we should explore. Like, because having an understanding, it's like going to college for a job you want. You get taught everything you need for a degree, but it was kind of like why I never did well in public schools, because I didn't understand what was being taught because I didn't have the context of the application. Having
Right.
that
Yeah.
knowledge of
It
the
wasn't like
application
an
like you
applied
have,
context.
that, that's
Yeah.
that's that's what keeps you engaged. That's what keeps you interested. That's what makes you fall in love with it.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's also, I think it's really interesting because, like, I don't know, you were saying like that you're kind of contrasting the different approaches we have, but it's also like, it's also interesting though to note that we've kind of come to similar styles and in a lot of respects and like similar values in herpetoculture in terms of like, pursuing a pretty naturalistic approach and I'm doing a similar thing, in terms of you as you in terms of like all the research of Google Scholar and getting climate data and all those things too. But yeah, but a lot it is true that a lot of what I'm doing is from this like kind of applied context, of just field time and dirt time and unfortunately not enough of that in the range of the species I keep in large part apart from like a couple of rehab rattlesnakes that are over to my left right now. But anyway, yeah, I think that what you say too about just like the overwhelm aspect is kind of pinged a kind of an interesting discussion topic for me there. And I always have this sense that like everyone has kind of like a carrying capacity, in terms of
Yeah.
like what they can actually manage well in terms of a collection and like there's like a number of animals or a number of vivaria that like is doable, and beyond that point it just like ceases to be enjoyable, and it also can become stressful and can become a source of anxiety. And I wonder if like like from your experience as a keeper, if you have any insights into like how to find that threshold, that boundary, because my observations is that usually people find that boundary by like getting over their skis and then like getting really stressed out and then having to like downsize. But I also
Yeah.
feel like there must be a way that people can take a more gradual approach and save themselves the heartache of that. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, you know how there's kind of like that famous like advice or like mantra, like declutter your life.
Hmm.
I have been fortunate enough where I have worked with species that just didn't resonate with me, and
Hmm.
I was fortunate enough or self-aware enough to
Hmm.
realize that and make the decision to basically send them either to a friend who loved the animal or someone that was whose passion was enough to make me trust in their care.
Yeah.
Um, so, like, it's really hard. Like with my first reptile, like I part with my tegu. I had him since he
Hmm.
was a baby, and he was very hard to part with. But I had started working with other species, and I was expecting my first litter of babies, and because I loved him so much, it kind of backfired on me because he grew up needing constant attention, like wanting to free roam all day.
Mm.
And
Yep.
when I wasn't able to offer him that because I was focusing on other things that I wanted to focus on more, he ended up not neglected, but I could tell he was depressed. Like he stopped banging on the doors. He just started
Yeah.
sleeping all day. And as soon as
Yeah.
that happened, I was pretty much like, okay, no, this isn't gonna work. Like the middle ground was finding someone who would take him and drove like 6 hours to come get him. Like because I've always like been in one community or another, and people like know me, they know my animals, they know how much I love them, so they kind of like had their own love for them from seeing them so much. So I was really
Mhm.
lucky, really fortunate, very had good resources. But yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about because I have talked with people before who have kind of just put it in a way where it's basically you have so much to do that you stop getting things done at all. And I think one of the
Mhm.
worst things that a keeper would experience is their neglect resulting in like an animal dying. Like
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
can't let that happen. So like
Yeah, definitely not.
sometimes even when it's really hard to part with an animal, knowing if that animal just doesn't resonate with you, or you just know someone could provide the level of care you want them to have that you just can't contribute towards, or you just
Mhm.
want to migrate to something else. Like it's a hard decision, but it's that individual person's decision, and they shouldn't feel ashamed of that, in my opinion. Like it's different
Agreed.
if like you have a revolving door of animals, like you're just replacing one with another.
Yeah,
I still try not to judge there either, because some people are just really searching for that thing that clicks with them.
totally.
You
Yeah.
don't know unless you're that person. But
Right.
yeah, no, there's like I've seen a lot of I've actually been in situations too where people would have like an animal pass away, or they got rid of an animal and they were afraid to say something because they were afraid of being judged by people. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
if you're making that decision for the animal, you should never feel ashamed. Like if you
Yeah,
home an animal or sell an animal or whatever because you know it's going to get better care that you just can't provide at that time, like that is the only reason you need. And
totally.
sometimes that reason can just be that you just have too much to deal
Yeah,
with. You need to downsize. You pick your top 10 or 5 favorite animals and you keep them. Like you don't have to justify your reasons to anyone. It just what matters is you did what had to be done so that no animals got sick or hurt or died. Like to me that is responsible, and that's the thing that matters. And there'll always be people out there who may be side-eyeing you, but
Mhm. Mhm.
that's just something you have to navigate in life anyway. So, but when you're
Yeah.
responsible for another life, that is your priority. That is the only thing you should be concerned about. That's my opinion, at least. So,
Yeah, that's all well said. I agree that we should try to reserve judgment, because we also just don't know the other person's circumstances and what could be going on for them. And, um, you know, and they also, I think that there needs to be some kind of leniency for like the reality that life can just change really quickly.
yeah,
And in,
absolutely.
and in unanticipated ways, that's happened to me, where it's like, oh, wow, this like, like I lost this job that I had,
Mhm.
and suddenly like my financial reality is really different. I need to make changes. That's happened to me before. And I've had to downsize as a result of things like that. Or,
Yeah.
when I was a teenager and I had to like get out on my own, I had to part with my animals because of those circumstances. So I
Yeah,
always
it's
try to
just
like
like when
hold
you go
that
to
in context
college, like
that,
you can't just offload the responsibility on like your parents or a friend. Like not
yeah,
everyone can do that. Some people can, not
yeah,
many can. But
yeah,
it's like we're human for wanting those selfish desires to want to keep those animals because you love them,
yeah,
but we're also compassionate as humans, and there is no shame in admitting that you can't do something right now
totally.
or for the foreseeable future, or just completely changing your mind and deciding you want to get out of the hobby. It's not anyone's business. Like,
Right. Yeah,
but
that's true. There should always be space for that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean it is there is a dynamic tension there though, like that you spoke to, of just kind of this, you don't want to be like enabling this kind of revolving door kind of behavior, that can sometimes emerge. But you also, again, you want to have compassion for people and their circumstances and their changing lives and all of that. So,
yeah, I mean, like it's still there's still a silver lining, even if it is a revolving door of animals.
mhm.
At least it's actually a revolving door. At least they're not just piling animals on top of each other
Right.
and or downsizing the quality of life to fit other animals. Like there's different
Yeah,
circumstances.
that's
There are
very
things that
true.
make it better or worse. Like I'm a
Yeah, well
very
said.
empathetic person, so like
Yeah.
I'll listen to anyone. Like I might I'm only human. Like, I have my own
Hmm.
thoughts, but I'll reserve them. But
Yeah. Yeah.
like I can set them aside for the moment to hear someone out if someone like just needs someone to talk to because I've been there.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it's just we just have to treat each other like humans and stop being, you know, too holier than thou or like. And that's kind of too like another, maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but like kind of like when people are like, oh, if someone who's never had a reptile is like, I want to get a tegu or a monitor
Hmm.
or a really big snake, people will usually say like, oh, you should get something smaller or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this beginner animal. I personally disagree with that.
Hmm.
I think, and that's kind of why I've been working with Happy Dragons, is making sure people have access to that metric fuck ton of information they're going to need to prepare themselves. They need
Yeah.
that to make that decision if this is something they can handle or not. Because if they do get like some cheapo $50 corn snake or ball python, that's like a 10-15 year commitment. And if your
Right.
passion's not in it, if you don't love that animal as much as you would have loved, I don't know, a Burmese python or a monitor, your care is going to be different. Your experience is going to be very different.
Yeah, I agree. I've always been an advocate for like do extensive research, find a community, that you can communicate with, you can ask questions with, like the Happy Dragons Discord. Little plug. Um, and get the animal that you want, get the animal that you're excited about, that like that you're passionate about. Because I think that even species that are a little bit more complicated, I think that with the right amount of research and like again with the right kind of community to support you as you're getting into it, you can do it. It can be done. And I've seen some like pretty amazing keepers emerge that like they just kind of came out of the woodwork. They weren't keeping reptiles for their whole life or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
but they saw an animal they were really excited about. They did a ton of research. They put together an amazing vivarium and are absolutely doing a great job. And so I'm always like trying to encourage that approach, but I totally understand the like protectiveness that people have, and that like the whole like the kind of gatekeeping those more advanced
It's
species
completely
is
logical
coming
but
from a good
illogical at the same
place.
time.
Yeah, it's coming from a good place, but I think it can often backfire, I guess, is
Exactly.
is
And
the
that would be my
issue.
fear. And I'm glad Shira agrees too. She doesn't like the beginner reptile thing either. It's like you shouldn't have
Yeah.
that big of a commitment being a trial run. It should have
Right.
that
Yeah.
opportunity of like something you're gonna love, and you have you use your love and determination to power
Hmm.
through it. But I feel like
Yeah,
in this hobby, like one of the biggest missing steps is having the correct information, because that information can be
exactly.
very intimidating, or like knowing the reality. Like all the conversations I have with people wanting to work with the Bronia, how many of them have changed their minds when I told them that a lot of the animals
Oh
available for
yeah.
sale are smuggled in, and I tell them why and how that
Yeah.
happens and what happens to the animals. They change their mind. Like people need access to that information, which is
Oh yeah.
what Happy Dragons is doing, and that's why I'm so invested in Happy Dragons. It's making sure we cover as many bases. People have the resources. Like I don't care if I have to dig someone up. I will find
Hmm.
someone. It's like you said earlier. Like if we don't have answers to questions, like we know a lot of people. Like there's a good chance we know someone who does have the answers, or that person knows someone. Like it's a network. It's a collaborative community. It's not a competitive one. There's
Yeah.
there's no gatekeeping. It's just making sure people are prepared and aware, and that's the important part. It's like because those people who go window shopping at like pet stores and they come home with an Asian water monitor baby from Petco, like they don't know that animal needs like a 12-foot enclosure. Like they don't know. Like and yeah,
Yeah.
that goes into like a whole other thing, like with the window shopping. But
Mm.
but people, especially breeders, need to take more time to ensure the person buying the animal knows what to do,
Oh
especially
yeah, for
when
sure.
it's a wild caught import, because that's a whole nother box to open. Being prepared for that, like there's also like the opinion, and I don't disagree with this one, but like I see a popular opinion like on Reddit where people are like keepers shouldn't keep wild caught reptiles unless they're breeders. And I've seen it a
Mm-hmm.
lot in the Abronia community is people shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
keep Abronia unless they plan to breed. Like I disagree. Like I had my first Abronia for like 2 almost 3 years before I decided I wanted to breed. And I'm glad I did it that way, because what if I had gotten a pair of animals or more and I completely flunked the care, and then I had a bunch of sick animals that would never be able to breed and wouldn't live another year.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
like that's when an example of like a trial run is acceptable in my opinion. Like when you know the stakes and you want to make sure you can do it
Yeah.
right. Like I do understand like the offensiveness behind the idea of wanting to have an endangered animal as a pet,
Yeah, totally.
but at the same time, like I love my animals more than anything, and
Yeah.
I am exactly the type of person who would give away everything for free. Like
Yeah.
I would produce animals in a perfect world. What I would like to do one day, I would love to breed a Bronia, produce them, and then give them back to like conserved reserved land
Yeah.
for protection for
That would be so
for
cool.
cost of me. I would
Yeah,
pay
yeah.
to make that happen. I understand not everyone has that idea or can afford to have that idea, but it just all circles and funnels back into the idea of having passions surrounding the animals you're working with, because your approach of the entire hobby completely shifts. Like because you know we all see those people who want to breed reptiles thinking they're going to get rich. Like that dynamic completely shifts if money is off the table, like if that's not a factor to that person, if they just want to make that species available to other keepers, they love them so much they want other people to have the experience they had, or they want to
Mm-hmm.
conserve
Mm-hmm.
them in captive conservation or whatever. Like it's just so many. It's eye opening, I guess, is a fair way to put
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it is.
And thank you, Roxanne. She says my vision is beautiful.
Yeah. I
It's
love
something
that.
I'm working hard for, but I don't know if it'll ever be possible. But if I can't send the animals back to Mexico or Guatemala, like I'm gonna find the next best thing, because that's what I want to do. I
Yeah.
don't I don't I don't do this for money. Um, I have spent the last 4 years completely free helping people in discords and on Instagram and sharing my experiences. Like I do this because I love it and because I care about the animals, and for I care about keepers. So like I care about people. So like yeah, but I would never impose those expectations on someone else, because like I said, not everyone can afford to do that. Like someone can have the exact
Totally.
same passions I do about whatever species, but maybe they just lost their job or someone in their family is sick and they have to sell their animals. We don't
Mm-hmm.
like they didn't ask for that. So it's I don't know, you can't project it onto everyone. You have to be understanding towards others. And we
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially have to be understanding towards the animals. And like it's like every single point in this entire conversation just circles back to one point or another. It's like we
Yeah, it's
shouldn't
true.
decrease the quality of life of an animal to accommodate our lifestyle, more animals, anything like that. There's just some things that are unfair, but there are a lot of things that are out of our control. So
True.
it's you just really have
Exactly.
to
That's well
make the
said.
best decision you're able to make. So, but I
Yep.
don't know,
Given your
Drake.
circumstances, and it's true. It's well said. Breeding for the love of speed. Yeah, exactly. As Mel said there. BM, hi, what's up? What's up? Thanks for joining us.
I'm glad a lot of people like feel this way too. And I'm not knocking anyone either who does want to breed, because some species can be lucrative, whether it's for a while or just like the ease of reproducing them. Like money is obviously attractive, because like for someone like me, if I was given money, like if it would go right back into my animals. Like
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah, there's
my
there's
position. That's me
there's
personally. Like
always
someone else like you could like get the world's fanciest bathroom. You could build it from the ground up, and then the rest of it would go into your animals. Like people have
Yeah,
different
yeah.
priorities, but like it is not unreasonable for a part of you to want to do it for money. But that
Yeah.
being the only reason, like when you're piling animals on top of each other, I've never used a rack, so I'm more hesitant to like speak on people who use racks. I don't
Mhm,
love the
mhm.
idea, but I understand why people do it. Like it's a constraint. The animals shouldn't be there for long, or who knows. I've never actually had the conversation with someone like what's the end game here. But
Mhm, mhm.
like it's not unreasonable to want money. Like I think that's everyone's dream actually, is probably, well, not everyone, but it's a lot of people's dream to make money doing what you love, right? Like
Oh yeah,
that's not
definitely.
unreasonable. So
Not at
it's
all.
but it's very easy to get like wrapped up in that, especially in like as social media becomes more prevalent, and more influential, people becoming influencers, getting sponsorships, partnerships, getting paid to advertise products. Like I'm very leery of who I make
Yeah.
associations with, just because I want to make sure, like, if I recommend a product, it's safe. Like, it's a little different because if I were to recommend a product and then something horrible happened to me, I would come forward and say, this thing happened. I don't recommend this anymore. Like, I would burn that to the ground. I would shut it down. I wouldn't lie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, I'm the same way. I
yeah,
don't
it's like
I'm
I
pretty
I
cautious about
can't
my
do it.
associations
Like, yeah,
and also
at
pretty
most,
like skeptical about like the claims of any new products and stuff like that. I always have like a let's wait and see approach
right,
to
yeah, but
things.
who knows how long that is. Like, sometimes we get too excited, we get ahead of ourselves, and,
Yeah.
we're only human. But, it's just like, I'm the type of person who's more than willing to admit and share my mistakes, but
Hmm.
at most, I can withhold the truth, but if someone asks me, I will not lie. So, like, that's
Hmm.
my fault. But like that's where I draw the line. That's kind of like how I was raised. But it's like, you don't have to go around telling everyone's business, or just being a complete negative
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
storm
Yeah.
on everything. But
Right.
like, if someone asks me like, oh, like, how do you like the dubia enclosures, like, I'm gonna say like, well, I think they're really good for very specific things and they're affordable. That's
Yeah.
great. But there are a lot of things that could be very detrimental to our care, like the
Yeah.
lids
Totally.
blocking so much light. Like it, but it's just
Yeah.
like, if people are aware of that, if that's advertised, then I have nothing to complain about. Like if
Right.
that is understood, that you're losing 50 to 60% of UV and your animal depends on that, you didn't know you were supposed to get a stronger lamp for this low light species. It gets
Yep.
it turns into a kerfluffle. So that's just an
Totally.
example, because I do feel bad, because for the past year, the enclosures have been the bane of my existence for one reason or another, and I think I got a little too wrapped up into it, like being like, oh, I hate these, but I'm just like an expressive person, but like the reality is
Yeah.
that they're good enclosures because they're affordable, but you get what you pay for.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like I've yet to have a single enclosure that I've bought feel like it ticks every single box that I want it to. There are
I've
some that have
been really
like
happy
that
with
are
the
pretty good.
Demuro ones, like the hybrids I have.
Yeah.
I know you've got the condos. I haven't tried the condos.
Yeah.
I would like to.
Which I love them, but even those, like I don't like that they have acrylic doors. But
Um,
there's also no way for them to have glass doors,
yeah.
like with the style that they are. So like again, that's otherwise they're fantastic. I love them. But like my personal thing is like again, I just don't like acrylic because it scratches, especially using natural substrates. It's going to
Yeah.
get beat up over time.
I did
That's
think
just
about that the
my
other
own
day
thing.
too, actually. I was
But
like, well, yeah, acrylic, like these enclosures are acrylic and these doors are all
yeah.
scratched to hell because the
Yeah.
beardy wants to come
Oh
out,
yeah.
or the skinks want to be
Exactly.
fed. But like with the Abronia, with the acrylic front Tamura Designs enclosure, they don't scratch at the door. They're too small.
Yeah. Oh,
On the
so we have a
topic of
question in the
dubias
chat.
and feeders, how do you manage to keep
Yeah.
them alive and breed them? I kind of just have like a giant tote bin filled with dubias,
Yeah.
And I kind of just like forgot about them for 6 months. Like I gave them food. I've heard
Hmm.
people say like giving them like citrus. I don't know if it was specific to oranges. I think like something about it is stimulating to get them to breed. But
Mm.
they do have like a
Interesting.
pretty long life size, like the life stage cycle, like from like the
Yeah.
larva to the small beetle to the big size. Like, cause I've had my colony for like 3 or 4 years, and I'm finally hitting a point now where I have a bunch of adults and then a bunch of babies because like I
Hmm.
either didn't feed the dubias when they were the right size for my animals, and now I'm just like kind of mingling in between of too small and then too big. So it's just like, like
Yeah.
a lot of my insects that I have like colonies for, they thrive on neglect. So it's just like you have to have other stuff so you can leave them alone. Because if you're trying to start a colony, if you're trying to breed them, you can't touch them. Like you can't pull from it. Like you just kind of, it would be easy to find the research on like the life stages and time out when they should be the right size and be more strategic. But if you're like me and completely forget, like out of sight, out of mind, hmm you just kind of hope for the best. But I have so many different bugs, it's not ever really like a problem. So it's just like if I
Yeah.
don't have the right size of something, I go to the next bin and pick something else. Oh yeah, and heat, like Mitch said.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, that's a huge factor. Is like, well, also, I don't know, Roxanne, how you have your dubia set up, but I would say keeping them warm enough is a huge factor. And also, yeah, what everyone else is saying, I think is totally true. Like, kind of just like not bugging them, aside from feeding them, making sure they have water, um, like just leaving them alone, I think is really helpful. And I honestly feel like when they're starting almost any new feeder colony, like plan to not be feeding off from it for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Like give it a year to like really get going. And like because again, like you said about the life cycle thing, it could be like it could need a full year for them to like actually like complete their life cycle and get to like, the smaller ones up to breeding size. And yeah, I think it's like a lot of people are like, oh, you should get a dubia colony, it's the easiest thing ever, and then you'll never have to buy feeders again. And I think that can often be a little bit overstated.
Yeah, it's
It's
pretty much you want
true.
to you
I
want to
think
set up a
once you
colony and
get
then
to
a
a
feeder
certain
box.
size,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Once you get to a certain size of like your colony, it's true that like, yeah, you've got like a lot of food going there, but I think
yeah.
it can often take a lot longer to get to that stage than people are aware.
Yeah, and like a little, I guess it's kind of like a little pro tip too. Like with my colonies, I actually give them a bit of substrate
Mm.
because it helps with the smell a lot.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
But you don't want to put too much substrate because if you're using like a heat mat, it's not gonna warm through the
yeah,
tub. And
yeah.
like for a dubia colony, you're gonna want a big container, so you're gonna need a big heat mat or a high wattage one. So you don't
Yep.
want to add a lot of substrate. And yeah, so like when it comes to switching out the substrate, I just pull out their egg crates, put them in another container, sift through the substrate for whatever I can salvage. Like I've got like I think buffalo beetles in there, and then like the little larva and everything like that. And I'll dump it, refill it, move the egg crate back. Something I really want to try too. Kind of mini tangent. Like Tamura Designs has roach sorters.
Yeah,
I really want them, but they're. I told Dale this too. Like I want them to make me ones that are smaller because they're really big and they come in like
yeah.
sets, so they're really expensive. But it
Hmm.
would be infinitely easier than like holding egg crate trying to pick off the small sizes I want. Like if I could just dump them into the sorter and the sizes I want fall through, that would be
Yeah,
perfect. But
yeah. You can get uh look up on like Amazon. You can get like sets of sifter things that they fit onto a bucket, like a 5-gallon bucket
mm,
lid, and they come in different sizes. I think they're for sifting out like various different products and stuff like that. But you can totally use them for feeders.
I never even thought
Um,
about that. I'm not
but yeah, I
resourceful.
would I would recommend those. Like I think you just if you like Google like bucket sifter set,
I know I'm gonna get like a
you'll
gold
probably
sifting set.
you'll probably yeah, exactly. No, I think that people would sometimes use it for stuff like that,
What is
but
that
that might be
called?
worth looking into.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I could probably even make something myself with like wire cloth, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm lazy. I want to buy things. Like I need it conveniently delivered to my door. I don't want to go outside. We had that whole conversation. It said the heat is on the side of the bin. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that would probably, if I had done it that way, I probably would have avoided all the times my Tegu shoved the colony bin off the heat mat and laid on
oh yeah, there you go.
it. So,
Yeah, the babies I think do a little bit better when they can hide into the substrate in my experience. I think they do
yeah,
appreciate that.
like some species of roaches too, like will burrow. Like I have
Oh yeah.
discoids, they burrow. They poop a lot. So like I've always liked the idea of like doing a bioactive like bug colony, but like
Mhm.
then usually with that you have to keep the moisture up, and if you're using things
Yeah.
like egg crate, it'll break down really quickly, become really soggy, and then it's
Yeah.
such an enclosed space. Like I think the lid to my colony, I actually like cut out most of the top of it and put mesh over it for the
Yep.
ventilation. um so that helps too, but then it's just like remembering to mist. Like I am one of the most forgetful people I know. I forgot the rest, but um, but it's like there are ways to do it if you are able to manage that care too. Like if you did
Mhm.
ice pods or springtails or even more buffalo beetles, but like you have to consider with colonies of ideal size, that's a lot of frass. That is a lot of
Yeah.
poop. Like it has to go somewhere. It has to be repurposed or whatever. So like there's
Yeah,
definitely a
I think it can
balance to
often be
strike.
difficult to metabolize all that for a bioactive bug bin
Oh,
at a
it's
certain
Ribrianna.
scale.
Okay, I know who
But
you are. You're wonderful. I hope you're doing great.
oh, awesome.
Do they need to be misted as often as well, Squirtle's in the what is it, like the turtle table? Like the uh it's gonna the amount of misting you'd have to do would really depend on the ventilation, like in the colony. Like
Yeah,
I
it's
said, like
true.
the entire lid of mine is mesh, so like the ventilation is very high. So like if I wanted to mist it to keep my let's say ice pods from perishing, yeah, I would have to mist it probably at least like maybe once a week. It really depends because like you can use different blends of substrates that would
What I
hold
actually do
moisture.
is, yeah, I don't even mist my bug colonies. What I do is I actually just like pour water on one end of the substrate
Yeah,
bin,
that's
and
probably the
then
smarter way to go.
and I do that. I pour a little bit of I dump a little bit of water basically into the substrate on the end opposite the heat source. Um, and that like and I just make sure that there's like some part of the substrate that has like is moisture, even if it's like pretty dry over by the heat source, that's fine, because again it's like a gradient, right? It's the same as like with our
Yeah, you
reptiles.
want them to be able to
I find that that
choose
works pretty
too. You
well.
don't want them just like
Yeah.
rotting. Like for me, superworms or mealworms, it's hit or miss for me, especially the superworms. For some reason in my
Mm.
care, they just melt.
Oh, weird. Mine are
Yeah,
just like
and
ripping.
like Mitch said, that was the next thing I was gonna say. Like I would not want to be misting it because it's going to smell horrible. Like
Yeah.
like that's why I never liked misting like the grasshopper enclosure, and I gave up on doing that bioactive. Like there are some buffalo beetles in there, but like I made a little acrylic substrate box that like whenever I in between orders I pull the whole thing out and just dump it. It's just got a little bit of substrate in
Mm.
it because when I kept them on paper towels, they eat so much and they poop so much. It smelled horrific. It's about time for me
Yeah.
to change out the substrates in all my roach bins, but it doesn't smell horrible yet. But I know if it was wet, it would be unholy. It would be offensive.
Yeah. Yeah, for real.
I was thinking about getting a storage tub like from Walmart. Yeah, you can get one from Walmart, Home Depot, Amazon.
Yeah, just a basic storage tote.
If it's specifically for dubias, yeah, just get like a real tall one because there is a benefit. Like if you use like the paper egg crates, having them vertical and like stacked to the side,
Hmm.
like when the roaches poop, it'll just kind of like fall through instead of like collecting in like the cups of the
Yeah.
egg crate. So that's a benefit too. So you at least want height to accommodate that and make sure they can't jump out. So like there are some totes I've gotten on Amazon, like for it was for my pallid roaches because they're really
Mm,
good climbers. So I made sure to get a lid with like a gasket seal. Because I did find out too, like I used to keep red runner roaches, which if those get out,
mm.
they're very prolific.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
yeah, like I whew. turns
I've heard
out
some stories.
turns out that they can jump. So like I didn't have them
Yeah.
in a tall bin, so they were just getting out. They would climb on top of the egg crate and jump and cling
Oh
and
wow.
squeeze out under the lid, and
Oh
it
wow.
was pretty bad for a while. I had them around my apartment, not gonna lie. I was finding them for like a year after I didn't keep them anymore. But
It
and
happens.
like I tried getting rid of my pallid roaches, and like they ended up doing was basically the same thing, was climbing up because they could climb the plastic, so I had to put like Vaseline around
Yep.
the rim that still didn't even contain them because all they did was move into my discoid bin. So like
Mm,
now I have a colony of discoid and pallid roaches. Yeah,
yikes.
I mean, the jumping, the yeah, and the bins with the solid colors are also good, so they have
Yeah,
some
fully opaque.
privacy.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. Thanks for that, Mel.
Definitely. Yeah, but the red runners, the ones like that, like banana roaches, pallid roaches, very good climbers. Red runners apparently will hop, and
That checks out for me with them. They're pretty athletic little roaches. They're fast and
they're gross. They're sticky. Ugh,
yeah.
ugh.
But for lizards that like to chase their food, they're great.
Oh yeah, they're very good hiders too. Like dubias, like because that's another thing too. When we were talking about cleanup crews for your roach bins, like I've seen people use like darkling beetles and dubias as cleanup
Hmm.
crews in bioactive enclosures for arid species. Like that was kind of also why I mentioned like you want to make sure you have a large enough cleanup crew to handle the amount of waste that cleanup crew is going to put out.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just going to be a possibly slower decline, but a decline nonetheless.
Hmm. Hmm.
She dislikes roaches in general. Yeah, I'm not. I think, I was kind of like about them, but like I've kind of bonded with them. Like the dubias, the discoids, the red runners, the pallets. I've actually like hand fed them all. So it's actually, and like the grasshoppers too. Like I've hand fed them, and it's actually really cute. Like I have like a colony of isopods too. I like misting them once a week and then giving them food and then just standing there watching them eat and fight over stuff. It's really cute. So it kind of like gave me a different perspective. Uh, I don't know, Roy. Do you keep your own like colony bins? Like you have to, right? You have lizards
A little
still.
bit, yeah. A little bit, yeah. I do super worms.
You breed them?
Yeah, yeah. They breed.
How? How do you keep them
I
alive?
mean,
Mine melt.
mine are just like they're in like a file tote, like a gasket lid file tote. Heat mat under there, probably like 3 inches of like a good amount of substrate, like 3 inches of substrate, and then like a couple pieces of cork on top. And I just like basically feed them kitchen scraps from our
From
compost,
whatever.
like yeah, like some greens, from our garden and carrots and stuff.
Hmm.
Sometimes sweet potato.
Yeah, mine for some
Um,
reason
and then
just
I
like
have
actually melt. They turn to mush.
that's weird. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
a maybe because you live in a much more high humidity area than me. It's very dry where I live,
Yeah,
so I
it's
think that's maybe
possible.
part of
I
it.
kind of gave up on it and just kind of started keeping them in like the containers they arrive in, and there's usually not enough
Mm,
ventilation in those. So like I'll give them freshly washed veggies, and then they'll just
mm,
turn to mush.
weird.
Roxanne says, "What would be the recommended type of cleaner upper bug? If it's for an enclosure or for the? Are we still talking about the roach colonies or bug colonies? Because if it's for the bug colonies, it's kind of like I said, it depends on like what level of care are you
Yeah,
able to provide. Because if you do use isopods, which are good, um, you have to. That's another level of care you're adding to the table. Like they will
yeah,
need water because they do like
Yep.
have gills, like they're basically land shrimp or something,
Yep.
crustaceans.
Yep.
But like, so you would have to miss them. So you would go through that awful period where you're desperately adding isopods to clean up the Kafka-esque amount of frass, and then getting it wet and it smells horrible, trying to get them to go. But honestly, I would probably like start a bin with isopods and springtails or whatever, and then add roaches to it after. Like, I don't know, because the population grows if they have more food, but different species reproduce at different speeds, so it really depends. And there are so many different isopods, but and same for the roaches, like Roy said, like the logic of starting a colony bin, like not touching it for like a year. Like sometimes with some species you have to wait even longer.
Yeah. It can be a
others
lot.
not as bad. So I definitely, I don't know, I've tried using isopods, I think for the grasshoppers. That was the one time, but I could not make it past that threshold of misting and having to deal with the smell, because I keep the grasshoppers in a mesh enclosure, so the ventilation was wide open. It was like having a bucket of poop in my kitchen. So
Yeah.
I could not hold steadfast. I gave up on that and did buffalo beetles instead, and they work. They'll break down like the sheds and stuff like that. They're pretty nifty and they're really cute. They're very tiny.
Yeah.
I like
Buffalo
them.
beetles are great,
Mhm.
especially for like the drier setups.
Yeah, and darkling beetles too work, but they do have higher protein needs. I get nervous with darkling beetles like in reptile enclosures, because I have seen them, like if your animal gets sick or doesn't have energy to like protect itself, they will, like, it's the same as like crickets. Like they're very opportunistic. Like they'll kind of like I've
Yeah.
seen a lizard have a bunch of scales on its tail just completely eaten off by darkling beetles.
Ugh,
And
rough.
with the grasshopper care, oh man, we should have had Dean in here.
Yeah, we should have Dean on one of these
Mhm.
just to talk grasshoppers.
Yeah, because I just pretty much like,
Grasshoppers need more overhead heat is a
yeah,
major
they
thing.
need heat and they eat a
Yeah.
lot. Like they need fresh food
Yep.
every day, and the species you're able to keep depends on what's native to you, and
Yep.
the breeder you're getting them from also has to have permits for that
Yep.
species. So that means the species also has to be native where they are. So, but I bring up the species because different species have different food requirements. But Dean, who's in the Happy Dragons Discord, he's
Yep.
worked with a lot, and he spent like a lot of his time like through college like testing to like see what foods they absolutely need. And he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to like the locusts, the grasshoppers, like, so.
Yeah, he's the best and super great person to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Very generous with his knowledge, and I feel spoiled by my grasshopper subscription with him. It's pretty nice having that, and the polychris here definitely.
Oh, speaking of
Appreciate it.
polychris, how's that sweaty egg?
Oh, okay. So that was kind of a bummer, honestly. So one egg started sweating and then pipped, but then nothing happened for a few days. So I like cut back a little bit from the pip spot and like looked in, and there was a fully formed baby that had died in the egg.
No.
But the other 7 eggs haven't even started to remotely look like they're going to pip or sweat or anything yet. So I don't know if there was some sort of thing that triggered that one to go early or what happened, but there's also like a lot of yolk and stuff left in the egg. Like it was just weird. It was like the baby had just pipped too early. So I don't know, but it looks, I know that they must be close. The other ones must be close because like I said, it was a fully formed, like the pattern, coloration, and everything was fully there. It just hadn't absorbed all of the yolk contents yet. So I'm patiently awaiting the other 7 eggs, some sort of activity happening with those. I think it's been like 265 days now.
Yeah.
Something like
I
that.
don't know anything about like like the development of like like in the eggs. But like I wonder if like there's like some weird ratio maybe of like heat or the temperature where it's like the yolk enough
Yeah.
yolk is absorbed or maybe too quickly to where it funnels to growth, but not enough to where it's fully absorbed to have like energy. So like it pipped but couldn't
Mhm.
get out and then just kind of I don't know. That's but with chickens we had a neighbor with chickens and that's what his chicks would do in the egg every once in a while. You should candle them. Have you candled them?
Hmm. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're very alive.
Oh, and then she also asks, would it be possible to grab wild ones and then breed and medicate them? Because they've heard parasites are concerned or are a concern. I personally do not like the idea of feeding wild caught insects. That's my personal thing. Just because one, I live in an area that is sprayed with pesticides a lot. Like
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
they sprayed like maybe a month ago, and I've been finding like dead inverts everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Not
don't
good.
know how far they travel. Like if they would maybe be coming from an area that wasn't sprayed and they ate something. But my fear would be that they ate something that was contaminated and then
Yep.
my reptile eats it. But I do know the grasshoppers are very sensitive to pesticides. Like they'll get like brain damage and just kind of like flop over, stop doing anything. So like you could
Yeah.
like collect them and then like quarantine them for a couple
Mhm.
weeks or a month and then like see what happens. I also do not like the idea of like medicating my animals when it's not
Mhm.
warranted, like causing that undue stress just on a what if. Again, that's my preference based on logical advice from my vets, but
Mhm.
like but in theory, like it could work. Like I do know people that will go
Yeah.
and catch wild insects and feed them to the reptiles with no issues.
Yeah.
And
Occasionally I'll feed wild insects to my Plecris. Every once in a while. Not very often, but occasionally.
yeah,
But I
and
also
like when
live
you think about it
very
with
rurally.
Dean, yeah, when you think about it with Dean, is like he goes out and like collects wild grasshoppers and then
Yeah.
breeds them. Like so I don't know, the strain, I guess as we'll call it, like the
Mhm.
lineage, like I think I got some from him that like weren't doing well, and I think he said it was like a strain from Oklahoma and he didn't really like the
Mhm.
bloodline because they weren't doing well. So like
Yeah.
maybe it's a little different if like you're just like keeping them and then feeding them off right away. But I do know with grasshoppers breeding them is more challenging because like the females need certain conditions to lay the eggs, and then the eggs need diapause, and the incubation is like 7 months. So, so it's like Dina's putting in a ton of work into his grasshopper operation, which is why I am more
Yeah.
than happy to throw money at him for grasshoppers.
Yeah, totally. I feel the same way. It's like what he's doing is not it's not easy for sure. And
Medicating, okay,
um
not medicating the animal, but medicating
the
the
actual
bugs. I've
bugs.
never.
Yeah.
You might kill them, honestly, because like when you think about it, if you have like a 1 kilogram lizard that needs a 2.5 milligram dose of Panacure, for example,
Mhm.
and then a 50-gram lizard would need 1.025 or sorry 0.025 milligram of that same dose to scale down. You have to scale that down even further for an insect, and then like it varies on a species to species basis, so that's not even considering in inverts versus like reptiles. So like I can't speak for that, honestly.
Yeah.
I've never met anyone, not to say they don't exist, but I've never met like an invert keeper that gets like wild caught inverts and then treats them for parasites. It might
Yeah,
be
I've
out
never heard
there,
of that
but
either.
I've never heard of it. Uh, from a city that doesn't spray. That is amazing. I wish I lived there because they spray everything here. I have magnolia trees in my courtyard that I would love to collect the leaf litter of every year, but I don't trust it because of how much pesticides they spray. Too complicated to attempt. It is very complicated, but it is all dependent on what you set your mind to. It is what you are willing to do. That is the deciding factor.
Yep.
So like, I would purchase because I like supporting businesses like that who are doing that amount of work. But there's totally nothing wrong where if you wanted to do it yourself because you didn't want to spend money, there's nothing wrong with that at all, in my opinion. We don't worry at all. Yeah, see, I get ants every year. So that's the trade-off. It's either complain about the pesticides and then live with the ants. So there's not really any winning. It's kind of like if I were to like move to California, it's like you guys are your own little country. You've got a lot of different laws compared to the rest of the country. Like, you guys are more serious about warning people about what gives them cancer and stuff like that. I like the care that goes into it. Like, I feel like there's a lot of disregard. Like, I live around like a lot of like data centers. Like, so basically you could say like the internet is where I live. But so it's a different culture. Like, I'm not far from DC. I don't even know. That's another place where like the laws are like its own little country. But as long as I can keep my lizards and not get in trouble and not step on any toes. Like, I've lived in some pretty weird places that don't care for much of anything. So like, I've lived.
Yeah, it's common.
Missouri. I know a couple people from like Missouri. I've never like asked them about like what their experience was. I've always been on the East Coast, just up and down the East Coast. I'm from Europe. But that's kind of crazy, like the laws we have, like when you compare it to like the UK or Europe, for example. Like speaking of ants, like we use like the borax poison traps for ants, and then like in the UK it's like forbidden to even sell borax. Like, I think there were some other studies, or they have other evidence that it's just not safe to use, so you can't use that there. Like, there's so many different flip sides in a lot of different ways, because like we have like the FDA, which is kind of like a thing that seems like it's doing what it's supposed to do. But bye, Shira. Have a good night. Speaking
Take care,
of, we're coming up
Shira.
on an hour and a half. What are you thinking, Roy? Got anything else?
Yeah, I think I should probably roll at an hour and a half. But yeah, I also have to make dinner, as Shira said, and walk with Dalva, the wolf dog, always.
You gotta go get walked by Dalva.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've actually started running. I'm trying to get into better shape, so I've started running, and that's been good.
That's
running
good.
with her.
You
Although the funny thing is, the half the time she doesn't want to run, she wants to walk.
It's too hot.
She wants to sniff everything, and so, which is very understandable. It's very important for her. So
my dog, my German Shepherd, who lives with my mom, she's not doing great. She might have a DM, so she might be deteriorating.
Aw.
She has like a little wheelchair. She can't really walk well anymore.
Aw.
So definitely run with your pup while you can.
Yeah. Thanks. You got any plans this evening? Just hanging, chilling?
Nope. Once I hop off here and export, look at some clips, I'm gonna crawl in bed.
Nice. Cool.
It's almost 9:30. It's my bedtime.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing this. It's been fun.
Yeah, of course. I'm not looking forward to like later in the year when we're doing this at like 8 p.m. and my lights, like the enclosure lights, turn off at like 6:30 or 5.
Oh yeah.
So it's just going to be complete darkness by 6 p.m.
Might have to just change our timing. We could do that.
I'm not too picky. I've got my little lamp over here that makes me look unusually pasty white. But
All right. Well, thanks everybody to those who joined in the chat. Share, Roxanne, Mitch, Mel, everybody. We appreciate
yeah,
y'all.
and then people,
And
if you're not already in the Discord, join the Discord. We
yeah,
can
come
we
join the
can
Discord.
talk. We can continue answering questions. We can do whatever you want to do. And you can check out the Patreon because we do offer some stuff, some little extra stuff to our supporters. And hopefully soon we will have a lot more on the table that will be freely available, but also some very special privileges for our supporters that Happy Dragons is looking forward to. So we
Yes,
can't talk too much on it yet, but we're working on a lot. Roy and I have been working our butts off.
it's true.
So
All right. Yeah. Should we call it? Thanks,
yeah,
everybody.
let's call it.
Okay. Good night, everyone. See you next week.
All right. Night.